So yeah, it's 3 days. Starts Thursday evening and ends on Sunday afternoon. There's a lecture and then there's a seminar. And it's about healing and recovery based on scientific discoveries, on research, not on online nonsense by self-styled experts. So it's free. Anyone can attend, clinicians and non-clinicians, laymen. All you have to do is send me an email to reserve your seat, because I need to know how many people will be there and book the lecture hall accordingly. So send me an email to samvaknin@gmail.com. I'm writing it on the board. Just copy it, samvaknin@gmail.com or contact@vrfoundation.net. Okay? Send an email and I'll reserve your seat for you. So today in the morning we discussed the social implications of narcissism and the rise of narcissism, the narcissism epidemic, or actually pandemic. It's a phrase that I coined more than 30 years ago. And I would like to focus now on a subset, on an aspect of this narcissism revolution, in effect. And that is expertise as narcissistic injury, what I call malignant egalitarianism. Now, I brought with me a book. Can everyone see it? It's a book by Carl. Can you see it at the end? Okay. It's a book by Carl Sagan, The Demon-Haunted World. It's a 30 years old book which reads like yesterday's newspaper. Amazing insight, prophetic, literally prophetic. Anyhow, on page 12, Carl Sagan quotes the 18th century famous English poet, Thomas Gray. And Thomas Gray wrote, "Where ignorance is bliss, 'tis folly to be wise." And that's a great summary of this lecture of malignant egalitarianism. Thank you very much for coming. You can go home. No, I'm kidding. Okay. So here's the problem with experts. Experts are perceived as superior. Everyone perceives experts as superior, somehow. They are living reminders of your inferiority. When you're confronted with an expert, for example, a medical doctor, a physicist, you know what? Even an expert on plumbing, even an electrician, when you're confronted with an expert, it implies that the expert knows something that you don't. It implies that the expert is somehow superior while you are inferior. Now, people who are a bit grandiose, people with a narcissistic style, people who feel inferior somehow, they would perceive expertise as patronizing. It's as if the expert is patronizing you. There's condescension. There's even contempt. And this is known as hypervigilance. When you're confronted with an expert and you feel that you are being humiliated, you're being shamed, you're being insulted, you're being put down, you're being held in contempt and disdain, that means that you're hypervigilant. You expect slights and put downs and insults, and you scan the environment constantly for these things. And experts are triggers. They trigger you to feel this way. They trigger your innate inferiority complex, if you wish, to use Adler's word. Okay, why is that? It's because science and intellectuals challenge you. They challenge your received wisdom. Everything you think you've learned, everything you think you know well, they tell you that you don't. You've learned nothing and you know nothing well. They challenge your received wisdom. They challenge society's received wisdom as well. They mock and ridicule conspiracy theories, nonsensical hypotheses, self-imputed expertise. They destroy delusional belief systems such as religion. In short, they expose how dumb you are. They habitually inflict experts, scientists, Intellectuals habitually inflict narcissistic injuries and even narcissistic mortification on people. Their mere existence, just being in the presence of an expert or a scientist or a public intellectual, is enough to make you feel inferior, enough to injure you narcissistically. And if it is done in public, and if it is abrupt somehow, then there's narcissistic mortification. Be that as it may, whatever the case may be, scientists, intellectuals, experts, they make you feel bad one way or the other. Even if they don't do anything, even if they don't say anything, even if they're very, very nice people, pleasant people, kind people, they still make you feel bad. They still expose to you how ignorant you are, how nescient, how lacking, how deficient, how inadequate you are. And who wants to be reminded of this? No one does. People rebel against what they perceive to be the oppression of resource-intensive research and incontrovertible evidence. Research, studies, experiments, learning, knowledge, they require a lot of investment, a lot of commitment. They're hard work, and they're intensive, and they consume resources. And then they produce results which are very difficult to challenge, very difficult to ignore. And so it's all perceived as a kind of trap. People, laymen, feel entrapped somehow. They don't have the tools or the weapons to fight back. Experts, intellectuals, and scientists put them in their place, confine them, constrict them, prevent them from participating in a meaningful dialogue or a polylogue. So the discourse is suppressed. And there have been schools in philosophy and in psychology and in theology. There have been schools which suggested that science and scientists are doing this on purpose, that it is a form of social control, and that we need to deconstruct everything that we are told. Everything we are told is biased. Everything we are told reflects some ulterior motive or hidden agenda. It's a conspiracy theory. Deconstructivism is a conspiracy theory, in effect. And so people fight back. When they're confronted with science, with expertise, with authoritative knowledge, with academe, with institutions of learning, they fight back. How do they fight back? They say, I'm an expert too. You're not the only expert, I'm also an expert. You're not the only intellectual. I'm capable of being an intellectual anytime I want to. You're not the only authority on the subject. I know better than you because I trolled Wikipedia or I surfed the internet. So it's easier to be a self-styled expert on astrology than a real astrophysicist or astronomer. It's easier to claim expertise in conspiracy theories than to actually be a real trained, qualified historian. It's easier to claim expertise on narcissistic abuse than to be a psychologist or a psychiatrist. It's the easy way out. It's a shortcut to celebrity and money. And the media are as ignorant as its consumers, as the consumers. There's no help from the media, you know? The media reflect celebrity, reflect the sphere of self-imputed, self-proclaimed expertise and knowledge. The media promote gurus, coaches, and nonsensical, self-styled experts. They promote them. There's a synergy here because these people bring readers, they bring viewers, and so media platforms, traditional, mainstream, and new, they all collaborate and collude in this conspiracy against science, against true expertise. I once granted an interview to the BBC, and the producer told me, we hate scientists. They talk too much. They're too complicated. No one understands them. We try our best to not interview scientists. Can you believe this? So, when you go online and declare yourself an expert on anything, an expert on medicine, you're a plumber, in daily life you're a plumber, but now you're an expert on medicine because you have read 5 articles, the wrong articles, from non-peer-reviewed journals. But you would have no idea what is peer review because you have had no exposure to academia and its settings. So you go online, you're a plumber, and suddenly you're an expert on medicine. You give everyone advice about COVID-19. Or you go online and you know, and only you know, who actually murdered John F. Kennedy. That renders you an authority. Everyone is listening to you. Everyone is watching you. It is self-aggrandizing. You feel elevated and empowered and elated, and it's a good feeling. So here you are, an expert on the John F. Kennedy assassination. Or you go online and you declare yourself to be an expert on narcissistic abuse when you don't know the first thing about narcissism. Absolutely the first thing. And it doesn't matter that you possess a PhD in psychology. Psychology is a huge field. And so you go online and you declare yourself an expert from one day to the next. You have published nothing, you have no credentials, you have never conducted studies on narcissism, you never treated real narcissists, you wouldn't know how to go about it because you don't know the first thing about the topic. And yet, you become widely known as the world's leading expert on narcissism, just because you said so. And this is the environment we live in. And this is exactly what Carl Sagan has described, has warned against in his book, The Demon-Haunted World. Again, I'm holding it up, so I hope everyone sees it. It's well worth every penny. So here we are faced with a combination of grandiosity, envy, indolence, mass stupidity, and entitlement in an attention economy, in a post-truth society where there's no truth, in an economy where attention is the only thing that matters. Opinions in this kind of environment, opinions are facts. You have your facts, I have my facts. There are alternative facts and all such kind of rubbish, balderdash. Opinions are not facts, of course. Facts are facts. And yet people confuse the two willingly and voluntarily because everyone can have an opinion. Very few people have the facts. And so when you have an opinion and claim that you are fact-based, that you're factual, it renders you an expert. You're an expert on your own opinions, which other people take to be factual. Access to raw information, and especially access to misinformation, is as good as actual knowledge and authoritative expertise. You know, a medical doctor can have a view on COVID-19, and you can have a view on COVID-19, and your view is as good as the medical doctor's view. Why? Because you have access to Wikipedia, or because you know how to surf the internet, or because you've been watching podcasters who are even more ignorant than you. Malignant egalitarianism is the outcome of what is known as the Dunning-Kruger effect. The Dunning-Kruger effect is a cognitive bias. People with limited competence, people who are ignorant in a particular domain, overestimate their knowledge and their abilities. It was first described by David Dunning and Justin Kruger in 1999. It's not new. There's even the reverse phenomenon, the opposite effect, where high performers, real experts, underestimate their own knowledge and their own skills. This is the kind of humility and modesty that drives science forward. Dunning-Kruger effect is about to popularize it, to render it in layman's terms. Dunning-Kruger effect is about stupid people who are too dumb to realize how stupid they are. Ignorant people who are too ignorant to realize their own ignorance. Information, raw information, is not knowledge. Knowledge is a structure. Knowledge is a template. Knowledge is a framework. Knowledge is synoptic. Knowledge is hermeneutic. Knowledge is is an organizing principle. Knowledge is when you take raw information and process it. The relationship between knowledge and information is like the relationship between good wine and grapes. So people have access to the grapes and they consider themselves great vintners, great connoisseurs of wine. They're not. They're not. They're drowning in a sea of raw information, the overwhelming vast majority of which is wrong, inaccurate, nonsensical. And so this leads to a degeneration and devolution, not evolution, but devolution. It's a revolution of ignorance. People revel in their own incompetence. This decay and decadence as something to be celebrated. Anti-intellectualism, hatred, absolute, unmitigated, unbridled hatred of science and academia. The joy of taking apart centuries of accumulated human effort to understand the world. And there's this enormous elation at destroying everything, destroying institutions, destroying universities, destroying experts, cancelling intellectuals. This huge celebration of the mob. And the mob is made up of mostly seriously stupid people who believe themselves to be geniuses and experts, or in possession of knowledge inaccessible to others somehow. The irony is that science is about asking the right questions. Science is not about the answers. Because in science, the answers keep getting debunked, keep getting replaced by other answers, keep getting altered. They change all the time. The answers are mutable. The answers are shaky ground. Science focuses on asking the right questions. Science directs the right questions at reality, at nature, at other people. It's a process of discourse. And so there's questions and answers, realizing full well that the answers are not 100% truthful. They are symptotic. In due time, the answers will be replaced and altered or consumed subsumed in a bigger answer, more accurate one, the way Newtonian physics has been subsumed in Einsteinian physics and so on. So science is about asking, inquiring, interrogating. Science is not about definite answers. And people, of course, laymen and stupid people, and most laymen are stupid people, don't understand that. They think science is about answers. And then they reject the answer. They say, it's the wrong answer. I have a much better answer. Why? Because I'm a plumber. Or whatever. You know? Science is the opposite of Dunning-Kruger. Science is about acknowledging one's ignorance and limitations. It's about pursuing self-betterment and self-enhancement through humility and through the modesty of confronting this amazingly complex world. People who claim expertise and so on and so forth and are not trained, not qualified, not educated, these people have no humility, no modesty, only grandiosity and stupidity in equal measures. And people confuse, of course, science with technology. I posted a link I will post a link in the description. When I upload this video, I'll post a link in the description to my talk with Benny Handel on this issue. But people confuse science and technology. Technology embodies knowledge, actually. Technology provides concrete, predictable, practicable answers. It reflects the evolution of science. So technology also changes all the time. But whereas science focuses on questions, technology focuses on answers. And here we come to the conclusion of this bit of a rant, if you wish. I think the problem is with the Enlightenment project. The Enlightenment project, which started in the 17th century, and it reached its apogee and apex in the 18th and 19th centuries and 20th century. The Enlightenment project linked its fate with the values of Western liberal democracy. The destiny of the Enlightenment project was determined by free trade, globalization, Western democracy, liberalism, progressivism, and so on and so forth. And globalization started with colonialism, actually. It involved the subjugation of whole populations and absconding with their resources. So the liberal, democratic, globalized project was off to a bad start, was tainted from the very beginning. And when the Enlightenment project linked its fate, connected itself inextricably with this other project, it ended up with the misuse and abuse of science in the Nazi period, for example. It was wrong, it was a mistake that the figures of the Enlightenment, who were hell-bent on science, on studying the world, they also kind of proposed or supported political goals, geopolitical theories, views about the way humanity should conduct itself, a political agenda. The Enlightenment took on a political hue, political overtone and undertone. And by doing so, it has doomed itself, because politics is a fashion. In politics, we have fashions and fads. The Enlightenment project should have remained totally divorced and detached from politics, from geopolitics, from government or systems of government, from ideologies. Rousseau should have focused on education, or the theory of education, or the psychology of education, rather than preach to the nations on how to conduct their affairs. And this unholy mixture between science and politics has ended up dooming science. As the organizational principle of this imagined West crumbles, so do the offspring of enlightenment, science, rationality, anti-clericalism. When you get married to someone or to something, when they go down, they drag you along with them. As the politics of globalization, starting with colonialism, as the politics of democracy, as the politics of liberalism, as the politics of progressivism, has engendered a backlash, a reactionary backlash throughout the world, these ideologies took down with them science, rationality, anti-clericalism, and the Enlightenment. Now, science is contaminated, is tainted. Academics, scientists, philosophers, public intellectuals, experts, authority figures, they are all considered proponents of the project of liberal democracy. A project that is widely perceived more and more as having failed dramatically. And so, in this way, science is being dragged down together with liberal democracy. Even countries such as the United States are non-Western now. They have divorced themselves from the West. The Eurasian irrational model has won. It's taking over. And the Eurasian irrational model is anti-enlightenment, anti the values of enlightenment, anti the activities of enlightenment, science included, anti-intellect, anti-expertise, irrationality, as I said. We're at the end of the Enlightenment period and about to enter the dark ages of irrationality, occult, conspiracies, and the rule and the reign of the dumb. Now, I see that I've shocked you enough, so I'll let you vent by contradicting me and challenging me and asking me all kinds of extremely uncomfortable questions. I promise to answer, in a patronizing, condescending, and contemptuous manner. Yeah, okay. So, let's go. You. Yes, you in the back.